and welcome.
It's just a bit scary.
Yeah, but Dan, going back to the film now, the rules on these replacements of the church rules are being relaxed somewhat.
Luckily there's a bit of common sense coming in now, because if you can prove that your roof is being, it's high risk, it's being nicked again and again and again, now the regulatory bodies, people like CALU or English Heritage, are saying actually you can use other materials. It's very sad, it's a Grade 1 listed buildings, and it's been with the original design, often hundreds of years old, but they're saying, look, there's no point, it's stupid if they're just going to get nicked, so there is some flexibility now.
Yeah, and Dan, we've touched on the issue of plaques being stolen from war memorials before, so what's been done now then to tackle this issue?
Peter, your grandpa was a very famous general in the First World War, wasn't he? What do you think he'd make of all of this?
Well, he would have been horrid, but I think he'd have said, bring back the firing squad. I mean, I think he would have been horrified that scores of his mates, and my father too in the Second World War, died of course in those world wars, and there he was, and there he would be now looking at these plaques being taken down. I think one thing I would say, that the irony of all this is that young people now, the kind of people who perhaps one or two of them might be conceivably thieves or burglars, that I think they are more aware of what happened in the two world wars than perhaps even my generation was. Yeah. I mean, I think there's a huge awareness now of the First and Second World Wars, and more people go to remembrance services, for example.
Yeah. Well, I can't think of anything that's more disrespectful than nicking a plaque of, people that gave their lives.
Oh, it's dreadful. It's dreadful.
Just extraordinary. Anyway, we're talking about the past. Peter's been back to a place that holds so many memories for him.
I lost your Irish accent.
I'm afraid I did, Gary. I'm afraid I did.
Speaking of losing
something about it.
Speaking of, what happened to Teddy?
Teddy, alas, he went home. I posted it home with a parcel, and my dad and mum kept it. And of course, when I got back, I had it at home for the next 5 or 10 years. Every night I get a tape with it. Yeah. Then my parents travelled a lot. My father in the army, we travelled a lot, and we just lost it.
Ah, well, we've had a little delivery. I don't think it's the original.
Can I open it?
Yes.
Oh, it's absolutely lovely. Oh, look. Oh, and I will call him Patrick.
Isn't that lovely?
It'll swing on to that.
And this swing on.
I don't believe it. Oh, that's absolutely lovely. I think we mustn't have any kind of political swing either way. Let's get it.
There we are.
Slap in the middle.
Straight down the middle. Perfect.
Dead in the middle. Gary, were you a Teddy boy or an Action Man boy?
I was a football boy.
Go down, so you got out of that. Then you moved around quite a lot as a child, Peter. So did Dan and his sisters have the same sort of upbringing?
Sorry, say that again.
You moved around a lot when you were a child.
Oh yes, a great deal, because my father was in the army, and we moved all over the place. Gibraltar.
You lived in Libya
in Benghazi for 3 years, and then we went to Gibraltar. We were up in Nottingham, all over the place, about 3 years at a time.
Yeah, but you decided to stay put with your family then, with Dan and what have you?
I lived in the same house. I lived in the same house till I was 18, from 0 to 18 years old. Went to the local primary school. I had a completely different upbringing to Dad. It's amazing. My mum's Canadian, so lots of that sort of stuff she wouldn't have agreed with. So.
Oh, there you are, look.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Thumbs up. See?
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
Me and my sisters.
Yeah.
Dad there.
And obviously, Dan, hearing your dad's stories about boarding school, you were pleased that you went to the local school.
Absolutely amazing. It's just so different, so different.
But so important to have Dan come home every evening. We got to know him so much better, I'm glad to say. And that was lovely. And I think one should have one's children at day school at the most. I think a boarding school is a mistake, don't you? I mean, the two girls went to boarding school for 2 years when they were 16 to 18.
To get away from us.
To get away from you, probably.
Yeah. Look, Gary, we hear from your school reports that your teachers told you to stop concentrating on football.
And they said you'll never earn a living at football. So.
Really?
Yeah.
How wrong were they?
Well, yeah.
Did you do the classic thing afterwards of having to go back to the school so that they could see this is where Gary Lineker was from?
I have been back. I never pointed it out.
No. And your dad, of course, Gary, was a fruit and veg man, wasn't he? He was a fruit and veg seller.
In Leicester, on the market in Leicester, which is big open air market.
And you worked with him a little bit, didn't you?
He seems to not remember me working very
really?
often.
Oh,
well, that's the
I did. That's my dad.
Hey, that's cheap, 40p for some strawberries.
And only the finest. Absolutely the finest.
But is it right that there's still a Lineker stall there now?
Well, I think, it eventually finished. About 3 or 4 generations of the Lineker family, and nobody took it on after my dad. My brother did it for a while, but then he found other things to do. But my dad sold the business, and they wanted to keep the sign, so I think he got another £5 for that.
Yeah. And the family just veered towards crisps.
Indeed. Potatoes, though, it's quite...
No, exactly. Spring on the end. See you later.
Yeah. much, Pete and Dan. Lovely to see you. Thanks.
Great stuff. Okay, now then, it's time to reveal the first batch of runners and riders in this year's Sports Person.
Potatoes, though, it's quite...
No, exactly. Sprint on the end. See you later.
Yeah, well, thanks very much, Pete and Dan. Lovely to see you. Thanks.
Great stuff. Okay, now then, it's time to reveal the first batch of runners and riders in this year's Sports Personality of the Year, with a bit of help from Gary, of course.
Yeah. Now, all the nominees are behind us here, and they're on the board. You're going to give us a clue, Gary, so you at home can sort of guess who we're referring to. We'll start with number one. And number one, he's a long-distance runner, isn't he?
Yes, he is. He picked up a gold in the 5,000 metres at this year's World Athletic Championships and silver in the 10,000.
Okay, people are now screaming at the telly. The answer is Mo Farah. There's the proof. Okay, let's move on to number two. There's a hat involved. It must be a cricketer.
But not just any cricketer. He led England to victory in the Ashes in Australia and captained them during the historic series win against India and to the number one in the world.
Right. Well, it is, of course, Andrew Strauss.
Oh, you're great at this game.
I tell you
this
what,
is your game.
Yeah, I found my sorting. Now then, number three is a hurdler.
And you'll definitely know this one because he's Welsh.
Aha.
He won Britain's first goal at the World Athletics Championships in the 400 metres hurdles. He also won European Commonwealth medals last year as well.
Okay.
It is Di Green.
No, Di.
There he is. Okay, let's
There's a
move
Di.
on to number four of the first five. Number four is a golfer.
Yep, and he earned his first major title with a record-breaking 8-shot victory at the US Open.
It is, of course, Rory McIlroy.
Of course.
And,
Fine one.
yeah, the last one of the five is a tennis player, Gary.
You probably guessed this one. He reached the final of the Australian Open and the semi-finals at Wimbledon and the US Open.
It's, of course, Andy Murray. There he is. Couldn't be complete without him there. And a great line, first five.
Yeah, and I think if you see it, you've got one from Wales, one from Northern Ireland, one from Scotland, and a couple of Englishmen. So it's a good bunch. Good
Yeah.
bunch.
Who decides then who the final 10 are?
Well, that actually, it's not us, so don't blame. Don't.
Point to the finger.
People are emailing now.
Very cleverly, you should give it to somebody else. It's actually the sports journalists of the country, so they get together, they all vote and decide, and the top 10 come out. So.
Okay.
There are first five, and we'll reveal the next five nominees a little bit later on in the programme.
Yeah. Now, on Wednesday, it's estimated that over 2 million teachers, border staff and other public sector workers could go on strike in protest at government changes to their pensions.
Many will be veterans of previous dispute, others will not. We spoke to 4 workers who've never taken part in a strike before. Mixed views there from our viewers, but Education Secretary Michael Gove said today it was unfair and unrealistic to expect taxpayers to foot the increasing public sector pensions bill.
Yeah, he said he had already secured more from the Treasury, and now there was a need for all of us to move to agreement. Yeah.
Gary, it's strange to think that 50 years ago this week that footballers were threatening to strike to end the maximum of £20 a week, wasn't it?
Asking me like I'm supposed to remember that. I think it was Jimmy Hill, wasn't it? Jimmy
Yeah,
It was Jimmy Hill.
Yeah, and
It's funny she
it changed things, and now what, they're only £200,000 a week or something
I
crazy.
know. On the note of Jimmy Hill, we've had an email here from Boris who says Mr. Lineker is trying to look like Jimmy Hill,
Jimmy
is he
Hill.
not, with his little hairy chin.
I like the moustache.
Not far off, it says.
It's driving me mad. It's
Yeah.
close to December, though, isn't it?
But you're a very good boy. I mean, in nearly 20 years, you've never had a yellow or red card.
Never tackled anyone.
Do you think players now behave better or worse than they did generally? Because there's lots of reports there's bad behaviour on the pitch, etc.
I think it's highlighted more now, but I assure you there was some strange goings on in my times. A mixed bag, cross-section of working class society, if you like. Within that, you're going to get sort of crazy guys that like a drink, a bet, or a girl, or whatever. You're going to get that. But nowadays, there's such a microscope on their behaviour. And of course, it's the bad news stories that make the headlines. Nobody's interested in all the footballers that do hospital visits, and there are many of those, and work in the community. So there's always a bit of a focus on the negative side.
Yeah.
Good point. Okay.
Okay, let's go back to Sports Personality of the Year, and it's time to reveal the final 5 nominees. Now, play along at home.
Yes.
We'll give you some clues.
There's our board. We're now moving on to number 6, who is another cricketer, Gary.
Indeed, he was named man of the series in England's Ashes winning side and has scored over 1,000 test runs for his country since last Christmas. Any idea?
Who could it be? Well, it is Alistair Cook. There we are. Number 7 is another golfer.
Yes, he won the Open Championship with a score of 5 under par and lifted the famous claret jug on his 20th attempt.
It is Darren Clark. There he goes. Okay, right. Come on, all you sporting buffs. Moving on to number 8. What does he look like? Looks to me like a boxer, Gary.
You got it right. He had a 5th round victory over Zab Judah in Las Vegas, and he's gone undefeated in 8 fights, hopefully making it 9 by the end of the year.
It is, of course, Amir Khan. There he is. Now, number 9 is a road racing cyclist.
And the first British winner of the green jersey at the Tour de France after 5 stage victories, and was crowned road racing world champion in Denmark.
Oh, difficult one.
The incredible Mark Cavendish. Okay, and finally, number 10 is another golfer.
Another golfer.
3 of them. Probably a first, I would think, in our top 10. And he beat Lee Westwood to become the world number 1 golfer and is the first British player ever to win the US PGA Tour money list this year.
Did you guess? It's Luke Donald.
There's the lineup.
So there they are, our 10. Now, interestingly enough, no women in there, Gary. Now, I know this isn't your fault.
No, I don't
What's
vote.
going on?
Nothing to do with me. It's voted by the journalists, but it's perhaps not been as strong a year in women's sport as for British women this year, but I'm sure that'll change next year with the Olympics, because we're back, let's hope with Jessica Ennis, Rebecca Addington, we expect hopefully a couple of gold medals.
And no footballers, no rugby players either?
Not overly surprising, perhaps. No big tournament, of course, no European Championship, that's next year, or World Cup. And rugby players, well, they've not had a great time. Except, of course,
Wales did well.
Really well. I would imagine they'll be in the running for Team of the Year, I would think.
Great.
Well, thanks, Gary. Sports Personality of the Year will be broadcast live on BBC One on Thursday, the 22nd of December.
On tomorrow's show, the man who's been accused of trying to break up the UK, it's Alex Salmond. See you then.
Bye.
Thanks, guys.